we're so happy that we can interview Kohei, and we met in Fjärran Polar 2024. It still feels like a dream. Like I can only see pictures and realize I've done that. So maybe we just let you to start a brief introduction of yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. 大家好, my name is Kohei Weberer, and yeah, as you introduced me, I'm Japanese. I was born in Kitakyushu. It's like a northern tip of Kyushu Island. I grew up in Osaka for almost 20 years. It's also a big city. Then I moved to Tokyo for my degree. I studied law in Tokyo and also did an exchange in Sweden for a year. So I also lived in Sweden for a year. Coming back, finished my degree, then started hanging around doing some stuff. And photography has been like my passion, and storytelling is also something I wanted to do. So I just started my own project, like just hanging around, go visit somewhere and meet some cool people and document the story they have and share it. That's the thing I've been working on for a couple of years for now, like 2 or 3 years. And then last year I made a huge move to the island called Haida Gwaii, and it is like a tiny archipelago on the Canadian Pacific Northwest, and it is also a traditional and unceded territory of Haida Nation, which is one of the big like Aboriginal people in Canadian Pacific coast. That's me, and I kind of like see myself as a visual storyteller. Not that fancy one, but like I just try to kind of like tell stories using photography and lighting, and the stories which I feel that matters, and which I feel kind of help people to understand ourselves as a human being and like understand the beauty of our planet. That's me.
But you are only 24, right?
Actually, I'm 25 now. I born in 1998.
Yeah.
Just not that old. Yeah.
Did you say you were studied law?
Yeah, I mean law. Like I study in international humanitarian law, which is a road to like law in the wartime, like how what kind of things you could possibly do on the war and what should not do in the war.
And your passion of photography, and now you're a vision storyteller. Yeah, and I think Kohei has did a really great job. He has documented not only just with the photography, but also with your words. Like you write down the stories, or as all in Japanese.
Now you really kind of research on me.
Of course.
Impressed.
Of course, I'm gonna ask you like what inspired you to move to there, and what makes this and so special for you?
All right, so it's gonna be a long story, so buckle up. Well, yeah, where should I start? But I always like inspired by the like books and photos, like since I was a little kids. I mean, I'm not like a huge reader or something, but I'm always kind of like I love to read and get things going. So there was a lady, one that like a legendary nature photographer back in like 80s or 90s, and his name is Michio Hoshino, and yeah, he's pretty famous as a photographer and also a writer. Like he's also like a super well talented storyteller. So yeah, he's from Tokyo, but like eventually he moved to Alaska, and yeah, pretty much based on Alaska and taking a bunch of cool pictures of like a reindeer, not a reindeer, like caliboos and polar bear and those sort of stuff. And unfortunately, he died when he was like early 40s due to when he was on the photo shooting at the Siberia, the grizzly attacked him. So he died in really early age. But on his last years, he was really into the thing called coastal First Nations. Like the Aboriginal people living in Southeast Alaska and the Canadian Pacific coast. And his work and his words are like just majestic. And I was like, I don't know, like when I was a high school student or something, but sounds pretty cool. I have to be there someday. Because his work was not finished on this island on that topic. There's a like bunch of amazing photography left, but there's no essays or like lighting left because he was killed by grizzly. So yeah, I was thinking like, oh, maybe it'll be cool. I can be there and do some stuff right there.
Yeah.
And years passed. I studied law. I don't know why. On that time I have I made it up my mind like, oh, I want to be a diplomat or lawyer and change Japan or something. But then I moved to Tokyo and kind of like getting tired of like a huge like a capitalism machine city life. Then moving to Sweden also Sweden has also changed my perspective completely or something. And I'm more into like getting to know the new stuff, right? Going outside, going overseas, and like going outdoors and feel and see and touch and document it and share with others. And so yeah, on that way, I started my own project or like doing photography and lighting. On that time, like a year or 2 years ago, I didn't know what right mission or like a big theme I could work on is. So I was doing okay, like doing photography around Japan and hanging around cool people, but I was still not sure where my life goes. Like, so far I'm doing fine, but I was kind of like nervous and sometimes like insecure about the future. I mean, that's usual 23 or 24 guys do, I guess. Last year I was living in Nagano. You know, it's like a Nagano is like a
all the
cool
alpine
place.
mountains.
Yes, it's one of the most beautiful part of Japan. It's like mountains and ski resort and cool onsens. It's good place, right? I was just hanging around in Nagano and I happened to meet one lady who makes a wood stove, like wood stove.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sounds cool. I visited her with one of my friends and talk at her place. And eventually she mentioned that the event which made her life completely change and which was when she was like a university student, she went to kind of like a really misty, secluded island on Canadian coast with her anthropology professor. And I was kind of astonished by her story, like visiting her indigenous people at somewhere on the Pacific and feel the traditions and see what's going on there. And I feel that's pretty cool. And that was the Haida Gwaii. And I didn't notice on the time, but after I had a conversation with the lady, I feel like, wait a second, I kind of know about that place. Is that the place that won the book I read like years ago? Then yeah, it is because that legendary photographer was doing his work at Haida Gwaii, and I knew that at some point of my early life, and yeah, it's kind of feeling like a epiphany or kind of like a serendipitic encounter. And on that time, I feel like, oh, maybe I have to be there now. And I feel like my life is going toward that. And yeah, I started to saying that I'm moving to Haida Gwaii and doing my project. But on that time, I was doing okay, but not like financially good. So, and also moving to Canada and like moving to a rural place in Canada,
Yeah.
actually quite costly. So I started to like gather some sponsorship and like a crowdfunding sort
Wow,
of things.
really cool.
Yes. I didn't actually use like a crowdfunding. I just made like a Google form, like, hey dude, I'm Kohei. Long time no see, bro. I'm trying to move to Canada and such a cool place called Haida Gwaii. I will take a good photos and I would write a good words and share with you. If you feel, oh, that sounds interesting, you can tip me. Oh, how's it? Surprisingly, like lots of my friends and my old coworkers, there's like somebody who I never know, like tip me in. And also, I I made like a huge proposal PowerPoint and sent a bunch of like Japanese companies, and some of the some of the cool companies replied to me and hey dude, I want to help you.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Wow.
like a big Casio and the Monbel and those sorts of like huge one of the huge like watch company and outdoor company also give me a gear and some kind of support. So wow,
Wow.
it's
Wow.
happening right now.
That's so crazy. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like more and more into that. Like, oh, it is it is working. And yeah, more like a if you like step forward and like step forward and if you go with the flow helps your back. So
Yeah.
I started also kind of like get advice from like one of the most like famous photographer and one of the most renowned explorer called Naoki Ishikawa. He's like a alpinist and doing a lot of cool photography stuff. And I happened to meet him and like I just texted him on the Instagram, hey, I'm always admire you and respect your work. And I'm also trying to do the things like you're doing. And if you have some time or somewhere, I will really appreciate if you kind of like give me some advice or something. And he instantly replied to me like in 3 minutes or something, like, hey, I actually been to Haida Gwaii 2 times in the past and I would love to talk to you. So yeah, I
Wow.
met that photographer slash explorer, cool guy, and he also kind of connected me his friends who did a couple kayaking expedition in Haida Gwaii who lives in Canada, and also like some people I can learn how to kayaking in Japan. So yeah, it's been I still cannot believe what happened
Yeah.
past 1.5 year, but it is what it is. I'm here in Haida Gwaii right now.
I also have crowdfunding experience before for crowdfunding
Hmm.
this business of a cafe.
Nice. Did it open the cafe?
Uh,
Wow.
And to hear
Mhm.
your story, that I can really relate it to it. Like you really want to do something.
Yeah, I mean, people are out there, and it's a not Japan is like a yeah, our economy is shrinking, but we are not poor country. People have bunch of money, but like don't have time to spend, and everyone want to be excited about something. So
Oh, you're
I just
right.
propose some like interesting projects, or yeah, I think the point is like you have to be true to yourself and like show people why that project matters. And
So speaking of that, I just want to ask because you have said that there's a lot of Aboriginals living there,
mhm,
and they have a big community there. I saw you joined a lot of festivals and things like that.
mhm,
Can
yeah,
you
I did.
share your experience with the community there, and how would you describe their lifestyle from your perspective?
So yeah, it's a quite unique community here. So I live in the community called Maset. It's like a there's like a two village on Haida Gwaii, which is like a called Indian Reserve. So these places are dedicated for their like Aboriginal people to live and have a community. So my community is just a few hundred people, and almost all of them are indigenous Haida people. So there's like three kind of like Aboriginal people in Canada. One is the Inuit people who lives on the Arctic Circle and up north, and yeah, living on the like ice house or something. And also there's a Métis people, like they're kind of like a mixed people, or like a former Aboriginal people, and also like the people coming from Europe or somewhere else. And they're indigenous people, or like a people called First Nations, are like indigenous people in Canada. So Haida people, which I kind of working with and living with, are one of the biggest group of First Nations in Canada. So, but if you like hear like indigenous or like Aboriginal people, like I also had the idea that Indians in the Amazon forest or something, and they have no clues of technology, which is not true, because Canada is like one of the developed world, and our people and our community not living in like a bush or something. They, of course, they have a house and they have iPad and we have internet. So how they see the world and how they relate it to the surroundings and how they see other beings are quite unique and different from like Canada. It's interesting thing is like people on this island don't see themselves that we are in Canada. We are just on Haida Gwaii, and Canada is just somewhere else on the continent.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things I could mention. It's like, but the first thing is like their family system is like they have a clans in the like a Haida Nation. They have a clans, and first of all, they can divide it into Eagle clan and Laboon clan, and marriage have to be made between the clans. You cannot marry with like a Raven. If you're a Laboon, and you cannot marry with a Laboon, or if you're Eagle, you have to marry with a Laboon. That's also kind of stuff. So there's a lot of kind of like a Haida law or Haida way of being, which is still working on the daily lives. And those sort of things are like which I feel like really kind of like interested with, because every society in the world has distinct style, see the world, and what is going on after we die, or what was happening before we born.
They believe the afterlife, right?
Yeah, it's like a same as like Japanese Shintoism, like Haida people also believe it's a reincarnation. It's like karma. So everything depends on everything else, everything coming back to life. So that's one of the like a kind of like way of thinking they have, or they are trying to implement. Okay. But the one thing I should mention at first is because the indigenous community in Canada has had a like devastating impact of colonialism and also still suffering today. So it's just kind of sad to see that a lot of like indigenous community in North America lost their like kind of like way of thinking and traditions due to kind of civilization coming by from Europe, and they conquer the land where indigenous people has been living for 15,000 years or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a thing I have to kind of like keep in mind as a non-native here. Of course, a lot of things has lost through modernization and colonialization and dehumanization by like a British and Canadian governments. But people here still try to like reviving what they have or what they had, like a totem pole or like just mask or singing and a lot of like traditional gatherings. So I'm always admire that like a willingness and willpower they have. Although pretty much everything I lost. Imagine if you're living in a world like there's no art and you're the first one who come up with art. I feel always kind of like speechless to see how people try to get back their like philosophy and authority and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. When you talk about the gathering and the things, is there anything that you most unforgettable like a meeting, and can you describe what kind of the gathering that is?
Yeah, so gatherings are really kind of like a core element on your like a Pacific Aboriginal people. Because, for example, on Haida Gwaii or Haida people, they having a language for themselves. Haida language has been there for like 1,000 years. The language didn't have an alphabet. Like for Japanese, we have hiragana, katakana, kanji, and we know how to write down what we talk and what happened. That's how we record the history. But on their Aboriginal community in North America, they didn't have an alphabet. It's not which language is better or not, but it's just how the language happened to not having an alphabet. Instead of having an alphabet, gathering and art are crucial role to record what happened and what they believe.
Wow.
So the gathering here called potlatch is I heard what that potlatch is coming from one of their indigenous language, and it means giving or something. Because the language didn't have a like a recording system, it's all about coming together and witness what is happening.
Yeah.
So people really put a huge effort and money and time on like traditional gathering and feast. So one of the biggest gathering I've been and one of the most I became speechless was the one with a pole raising, like a totem pole. If you're familiar with, it's totem pole is like the pole with a like bunch of
Okay.
carvings in it.
Yeah, wood carving on top.
Yeah, wood carving on it, and that's totem pole plays a huge role in like Haida mythology and way of being because that represent the like clans or like they represent the family and represent their history and represent what they are. So, but like a raising totem pole or having a traditional gathering has been banned by Canadian government for almost 100 years. So yeah, there's no new pole until recently, and so it's really not always you can see the pole raising. So I was really excited to be there, and that was happening last November or somewhere. So
yeah, I think I saw
the totem pole
documentary. Yeah, about that.
Oh, you saw one, great. Yeah, so totem pole is raised when the new chief or like a new head of the clan is kind of like named or name giving for like a famous person or some really like kind of famous chief passed away or something. So every like a huge occasional they raise a pole. So that was happening on last November, like, and it was majestic, and I still cannot believe I was there because if you've heard like totem pole, it feel like a ancient civilization which dies like centuries ago that people are still doing, like people are still doing
instead
through
of everything.
yeah, like people are still doing that although there has been a tragic history to prevent them to raise a pole, and people stand back and fight together and getting their culture back. So yeah, just having a pole raising in front of my eye is kind of speechless. But I was also joined. Literally, we pulled a rope to
You do.
get the pole raised. So a few hundred people kind of get there in front of the pole, and they're like a three line or three huge rope connected together, and there's like a pole raising director kind of guy, kind of like hey, rope one, pull like a 5 meter, hey, rope two, you guys stop. So it's like a traditional way to raise a pole. They don't use like a crane or like this sort of stuff. And when the pole is raised, we put the dirt in it and stand still. Before that day, there was no pole or something on the place, but now we have a shining pole, which is a lot of the local people around me was crying and dancing and with a joy, and it was so powerful.
Hearing you speak of all this, it feels quite amazing that they can preserve their culture so well, and also the how people they gather together, and also they welcome everyone to join. I just saw that. So one of my sea kayaking friends said when he went to Alaska, the sea kayaking was actually developed from the fishing, this culture.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what they eat there, because I saw you did a lot of fishing there as well, or at least you have a lot of sashimi.
Yes, that's amazing. It's like a never-ending sushi party on Haida Gwaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, so I started sea kayaking from last year because Haida Gwaii is one of the best places to sea kayak. As you mentioned, sea kayak is actually from one of the indigenous people in Greenland and also from the Alaska.
Wow.
And because a sea kayak is so narrow and really kind of easy to kind of move around, so they're suitable for rough water and super cold water, such as quite up north.
How cold it was.
As you can see, I still wear a Robin Pora fleece. It's still quite cold here. It's today it's like 11 degrees Celsius right now.
Oh wow.
So,
okay.
It's better than summer in Japan.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And water temperature is also 12 degree to 15 degree all year. So
my God. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite cold. So for the indigenous people in the up north, it's quite in Alaska or Aleutian or Greenland, it's quite reasonable to have really kind of movable, tiny vessels for all of them. But for Haida people or these coastal Aboriginal people in Canada, tend to use things called dug out canoe.
Dug out.
It's like a canoe which is digging out a huge tree. So it actually contains a way more people than kayak. Could be 30 or 50 people can ride and going for trade, going for fishing. Sometimes Haida people has been really good on the wall. So going to other nation or other indigenous territory and having a wall and having a trade or something. So kayak is not from around here, but people on Haida Gwaii has been really good at seamanship because all the Haida village is located in front of the sea, and what they have eat is, as you mentioned, fish, because there's abundant of fish. We have all 5 species of Pacific salmon coming up each year, and bunch of huge halibut is like a really big flatfish on the bottom of ocean, and also a bunch of cod and herrings and mackerels. Yeah, so yeah, fresh fish everywhere, and we also have oysters, sea urchins, and crabs. Oh, that makes me hungry. Yeah.
Still nowadays, do they still do the fishing by themselves or?
Yeah, of course. Like there's like a traditional way of fishing called like gill net. It's like a fishing net for salmons. So they kind of like weave the fishing net from the nettle and create a like a huge net, kind of like a crosses the river, and the salmon big enough to like caught on the gill, like the gill of the fish can be caught, and the smaller than that can go through or something.
Yeah.
So
That's a sustainable way of fishing.
yeah, that's so tasty all the time.
I'm talking about sustainable. You're talking about it's tasty.
As you mentioned, it's like quite sustainable way of fishing, and
It's so funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
food harvest is like a biggest thing this region, not only Haida Gwaii, but like the region called like Pacific Northwest, which is like from Southeast Alaska to northern tip of Washington or Oregon.
Yeah.
It's like a really huge, like a rainforest area with a lot of rainfall and really mild climate, which is like a perfect for like trees to grow and rainforest to like grow, and also which the forest also gives like a river and ocean good nutrition. That's why the salmons are coming up every year. So, but yeah, I once read on some books because like Pacific Northwest, this region is the last place to get a kind of like a how to say get the farming like get the produce going, like doing a rice farming or like growing some veggies for themselves, because the fish is everywhere, and if you go into the forest, berries are everywhere, and
Wow.
they didn't have to worry about the food and worry about, oh, how's lice going like we do in Asia, because food has been so abundant that gives either people more time to kind of be creative and get into their art and their spirituality and mythology.
Wow.
And it's also like they takes like a sustainability or the things to they really take care of the things like passed down to next generations. Because the people here is really has been really dependent on the like nature, like we all the human beings used to do. Like their housing is from the forest and their food is from the sea and everything. So they really take care of the land for the next generation. I once heard from one of the elders in the village, he says, we're just borrowing from next generation. We're just borrowing the salmon, we're just borrowing the land from next generation, and we are responsible to pass it down as the way it is now. So that's one of the things I really kind of like makes my mind changed, because nowadays we see like sustainability is one of the catchy phrase, just sell stuff or like doing things, but people in Haida Gwaii or other Aboriginal nations, it's kind of like a natural things to do, be responsible for the next generation. So yeah, that's a things changed my mind too.
Yeah. It's so inspiring to hear that wisdom words from the elders. Yeah, it get me a lot of thinking. And you did a kayaking trip yourself. How did you plan those trip, and what did you discover from the trip? How would you recommend when who wants to do a solo kayaking? maybe in Haida Gwaii?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I started sea kayaking from last year because it's pretty much the same time that I decided to go to the Haida Gwaii because Haida Gwaii is a really special place to kayaking around. First of all, it's like an archipelago. So we have 100 islands. We have like two big main islands. It's North Island, South Island. It's like Graham Island, Raspberry Island. It doesn't matter. But so there's a huge two island, but also there's like it's hundred of islands, kind of like making like a really protected bay or inlet or sound. So yeah, kayaking in Haida Gwaii is really open for every level of paddlers. Like if you're beginners or if you have no idea is what is canoeing or kayaking is, you can just paddling in front of the village or paddling in the really calm protected bay and camping on the like secluded island and catch some oysters and having
Wow.
fun.
What?
Mm.
What?
If you're intermediate, you still can be a little bit ambitious to do some like a solo kayaking trip in the like a really protected area, like island hopping kind of thing. And if you're a super talented pro kayaker, you can go to the west coast of Haida Gwaii, which is one of the most loved water in the world. There's Haida Gwaii located on the tip of continental shelf. So if you go further to Pacific, it's kind of like super deep. And to the Haida Gwaii west coast, it's a steep hill down in the ocean, which makes like a tremendously big swells and waves. So it's just for like a really talented, not talented or like a experienced kayaker, that it's another world. Like West Coast Haida Gwaii is like different world from any other place on the Haida Gwaii. Because Haida Gwaii is like a tiny island, but it is not tiny. It's like a quarter of Taiwan or half of Shikoku. So
Yeah.
it's still decently very big island and lots of things to discover. And yeah, it's open for every kind of paddlers. So I started paddling from last year. So I'm not super experienced. I'm trying to learn. Yeah, but what makes paddling on Haida Gwaii special is there's like an abundant ancient Haida village site all over the Haida Gwaii.
Wow.
Yeah, before the 19th century, like Haida people has been living pretty much all along the coast of Haida Gwaii. Like some of the books says there's like 150 village on the coast of Haida Gwaii. But late 19th century, like European came and they brought some like guns and coppers and like cool stuff, and they also bring a disease like smallpox. Yeah, so that is like a devastating impact for not only Haida people and most of Aboriginal people in Canada. So like 95%, well, even more of Haida people has been like swept up by the smallpox epidemic at the end of 19th century. So yeah, people have suffered on that time, and even the small village lost everyone. So at the end of the day, or at the end of the 19th century, like Haida people kind of like escaped to like two village, and that village is still surviving. Like, that is Skidegate village and Nasset, which where I am now. But all around the Haida Gwaii, there's like a abandoned village site, abandoned like 150 years ago. And of course, like all the housing and poles are made of wood. So most of them are already kind of rotten and degraded into the nature. But there's still some of the standing pole or, or some of the like pole-ish things standing on the village site.
Wow.
And it is so I cannot describe
Yeah.
how it feels when you like visit the ancient village site, which is abandoned like 1886, and there's kind of like a more covered with the moss, but you can see one of the carving on the pole.
Feels nice.
So yeah, I've been trying to visit like ancient village sites all around the Haida Gwaii. I mean, not all around. I just started around my village and were more easy to access. So yeah, 2 weeks ago I went to the village called Cha. It's like a Haida language. So Haida language has a really cool sound, but it's a long story. So there's like a ancient village called Chateau in English way, which is located in the west coast. So I started from the kind of like a secluded area on the west coast and paddling through the inlets and paddling through the narrows, which Pacific water and other side of Haida Gwaii is the ocean kind of leaping through. So it's a huge current, and so it's so sketchy. Yeah, because bunch of the village side is only accessible by water, and most of the island is uninhabited, so there's no people, no service, no help on the way. So first, it feels pretty sketchy because what if I kind of like a flip down and there's if I could not like jump back to the kayak, I could have died with hypothermia or something. That of course I planned out things and I got the backup plans and everything and paddling through the inlet and went out for the west coast and visit the village site called Chato, and that was so special. It's a one of the village abandoned late 19th centuries, but it is also kind of like famous for Haida people that there's like a really beautifully still standing pole called Mosquito Pole. So I visited the village site, and there's like a abalone shells to indicate a path to the pole, and I see the pole itself, and it's kind of really kind of undescribable experience to like just me standing on the ancient village site where like 500 people or more than 500 people once lived, and it was kind of destroyed by the smallpox disease, and there's still a pole standing, and I was able to visit there. I was really appreciate for the land and the people and it's really special.
I feel like it feels like the movie scenes. You're kayaking through those places and then to see the ruins that is normally when we go see it, it's probably being people they refurnish it. But there I believe it was the way it was.
That's the beauty of the things, because if you have like a really kind of like a very important traditional staff standing on the lanes in the forest, it's a natural way of thinking for us to, why don't you just kind of like cover it or take it to the museum to kind of last longer? But for the people here, it's the natural process. As I mentioned, the people believes in reincarnation and everything has a karma and everything has a life cycle. So it's a natural thing for the poles or villages to going down to the nature, and why you don't understand. So that's also a different way of seeing the thing. Because we usually don't want things to die. We usually don't want things to kind of like degraded in the nature, but the people here thinks that's a natural cycle and they're distant this time to do that.
People are scared of things that be disappeared, but they feel like that's part of the cycle. Let it be.
Yeah.
How has the living on Haida Gwaii that changed you? I can already hear a lot like your perspective for the people, for the nature, for your living maybe, but after this year's living there, and I know you are thinking about keep staying there.
Yeah, I will. I've been here for like almost a year because I moved in Haida Gwaii last like 1st August. So it's pretty much a year for me. It's feel like a really long year for me. Yeah, what I feel I changed is like I started to like appreciate what I have and what I am now. Before like starting my like journey here, I mean I'm also like wounded dude in Japan. We always wanted to be something. I mean that's really universal thing, I guess. But yeah, if you're young, you want more kind of like success, or you want more attention, and you want more things, like you want cool cars and like a cool house or some stuff. Makes me like change my mind to start to like appreciate what I have is like from I think that kind of like a way of seeing is from like communicating and hanging around with the people here, because there's like a really interesting conversation like a couple weeks ago, and we are like some kind of like a weekly gathering with like local folks, and it's kind of like a weekly thing. We talk about what happened last week, and we also ask everyone that some kind of question. And on that time, like we are asked that if the money and time was not issue, what would you do? Something. And I was thinking like, what should I say? And usually people are gonna say like, oh, I wanna have some vacation house in Hawaii, or I wanna quit the job and like having fun or something. Almost everyone, or like everyone in the room says, I just keep doing what I'm doing now. Or like if I have more time, I want to discover more about Haida Gwaii, or more about over the hills, or more about the inlet, or more about the islands on Southern Tip or something. I was also shocked to hear that, because people are really kind of like appreciate what they have and what they're doing now. I mean, like statistically speaking, indigenous community is one of the like poorest community in Canada, and one of the like people don't see that much like a happiness or wealth in indigenous community. But speaking with the folks here, like kind of like they think, well, how fortunate am I to? Because once one of the elder in the village said, we have trees and we have air, we have water, we have salmon coming up, we have a connection with the nature, we are so rich. And it is so true, because I mean, being rich or like wealthy is like depend on the people, but accepting what we have and like acknowledging what we are is also like way of being wealthy and rich, I guess. So yeah, I mean these days there are a lot of like a discussion like what should we do to like kind of like end huge capitalism, or like materialism or consumerism. But I think this way of thinking, like just accept, like appreciating this like status quo, not like accepting, but like appreciating the being of ourselves, so the things we own now. It's one of the way to like rethinking the future, or rethinking our like a social structure for next generation. So yeah, that's the one of the thinking like popped in my head when I was paddling, because you have so much time when you're paddling alone in the ocean. And now, oh, I'm so rich, I'm so lucky guy, because I'm able to paddle in this like really secret and secluded and calm water with the eagle and raven flying around. Sometimes you can see killer whales, and me, I'm so lucky and fortunate, and I always appreciate the fact that I can be here and accepted here, and ready to contribute to community more, I guess.
Wow, yeah. Like you said, they are rich in their mind. Even people they are super rich, they're still not satisfied. They will feel like I want more. They will always wanting more. Thank you so much for sharing that. And
yeah, of course. I would love to.
It's also because you put so much effort and you really persuade what you want. So you get that crowdfunding. Sounds insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's just moving to overseas and moving to really close the community. Of course, like it's difficult in Japan too, but in Canada it's also has been quite challenging. But yeah, thanks to people around me and thanks to my friends back in Japan, family and everyone, I'm doing awesome. And always feel pretty fortunate about what I'm doing and where I'm heading out. So
yeah, if anyone wants to follow along with your journey, we will put everything of your information, your blog and your Instagram in the description. So follow
awesome.
up. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Kohei.
Thank you so much.